Hey everybody, how you doing? Hope everybody is having a wonderful evening. Hope you've had a wonderful week since the last time I talked to you. So howdy howdy. I think it's just me now, but hopefully some folks will join in, or maybe you're
Hey
watching
everybody,
this
how you doing?
stream later. Whoops.
Hope everybody
That ain't
is
gonna
having a
work.
wonderful evening. Hope you've had a wonderful week. The last
Okay, there we go. Rookie move number one. Don't be watching your own stream on the phone. Anyway, so tonight is actually the first in the series. Now, you may have joined me last week for the Prelude episode where I went ahead and clipped the sprues and cleaned up some of the mold lines as well as the sprue eyes on the Primaris Outrider model that we're going to start lighting tonight. And that was just a little prelude, get things tested out. To, since then, I have went back through and cleaned up the rest of the mold lines on the models and done some other trimming and basically got them ready for what we're going to do tonight. So, first thing we're going to do tonight, we're going to take a quick look here. Yep, that's what we're going to work on. There it is up front. Lighted Primaris Outrider model. We're going to put in the plasma engine. We did, of course, the conversion from Promethium. We hear in the far future now that the what is it? The Vicatrix has opened up or whatever it is, the Chaositrix. That we're short on Promethium, so now we're gonna go ahead and switch all our bikes over to Fusion, and then of course we're gonna have a working gun effect, pow 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 pow, and the lighted console of your choice. Mine is a skull. Ultimately, what I did was got something clear printed from Shapeways. I like a skull, but any chapter logo you like is probably available from Shapeways. So that's the way to go on that. Okay, so like I said, you may have joined me last week and you're saying, John, you just said it's the first episode. Well, so last week was the prelude. So now we're in the first episode. And here we are. We are going to set our timer for 1 hour. There it is. Oh, well, 1 hour and 3 minutes. Can handle this. 1 hour and starting now. Okay, so let's dive right into the hobby. The first thing that we're going to want to do is go ahead and take and test out our lighting. In fact, we can just go ahead and connect up our wiring harness. So here you can see is from Evan Design, the battery holder, single coin cell. These are probably CR2032s, CR2032s, typical coin cell battery, 3 volt. These happen to be lithium cells, the ones that they sent along with. So that's nice to know. And of course, this one has a switch on it, and then a couple wire ends here. Now, one of the things that I found to be, it's not really a problem, okay, so is with the various LEDs that I've connected together, different power supplies, things like that. I found that there's different types of wires. You might have a copper twist, you might have a steel core, 2 strand, 3 strand, 4 strand, different gauge of wire, all of those kinds of things, right? And as you know, the higher the number, the smaller the wire. Right? That's because gauge is there's actually a gauge, like a hole, and you stick the wires through the hole, and the number of wires that you fit through that hole of a fixed size is the gauge. That's how that works. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're just going to twist our wire ends together. The Pico LEDs, as you see here, they tend to be hey, what's up? What's up, Lawrence? What's up, Dylan? What's up, Donna? How you guys doing? So, anyways, these Pico LEDs, they have some of these super, just tiny little wires there. So I don't want to solder them. I could, I guess. So we're gonna twist them together. You see, it's all very simple. Now, the nice thing that I'm liking about Evan Designs, and this is my first build using their products, is that all the things come in with the ends of the wires stripped. So I didn't have to strip any wires, didn't have to clean anything up. I'm just twisting and going. So let's go ahead and switch over to the desk cam. You guys have seen enough of my beautiful face for a moment. There we are. Okay, and good. Okay, So here we are. Let me get this guy. We'll put him up in the corner so we know what we're working on. And we've got our coin cells here. So to do one of these bikes, as you see in the bottom here, I actually do have to do two different battery packs, okay? And the reason is that we have a flashing effect and we have a non-flashing LED. And those need to go on separate power sources. Other than that, I'm doing 2 lights per coin cell, which I think is going to give me a lot of battery life. I'm hoping to get, with my old bikes, and I think most of you have seen. Hey, what's up, Tony? I think most of you guys have seen my old bikes. Those old bikes had, I don't know, 40, 60, 80 hours of battery life. I know that I would put a brand new pair of batteries in the bottom of the old bikes and like go to the game store and forget to turn a bike off. And a week later, I'd come back to the game store and the bike would still be lit. It'd be working just fine. So I don't even know. Usually I would replace the batteries in those bikes once a year, but it was pretty rare for the batteries to actually die. Anyway, so here we're going to do 2 Pico LEDs. So they're a lot smaller than the ones I did in the old bikes. And we're going to do 2 per coin cell. So again, I'm assuming we're going to get a lot of life out of these. Now this one, you'll see I actually made the switch to turn it on and off on top. So this one worked out pretty well, and I'm amazed that this piece I glued on there is staying. On this other side, I came a little too close to the tire, so we're going to correct that on this build. And I couldn't get anything to stick. I don't really think anything is going to glue to the top of these consistently. So I just need to put them in a place I can reach them. So let's do this. Let's start with, let's see, that is going to be a red LED. And that is a blue LED. I know the blue ones have just nothing. They're just a little, and again, these are like Pico LEDs. Let me see if I can get the camera to focus in on that. There we go. Can you see that? Ah, there it is. Boom. Such a good camera. Can we get closer? 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 Oh yeah. You can tell my future at that distance. But look at that thing. That's an LED. It's so tiny. So tiny. Wait till you see how bright they are. Anyway, so I got a blue one here, and I have a red one. And first, we're gonna take those wires and we're gonna get them and twist those ends. So on this one, the blue, we do have a definite red side. So let me bring that over to this red. And just going to twist those together. I'm not going to super twist them at the moment. Get those evened up a little more. There we go. I'm not going to super twist them at the moment. And because the wire here on the blue is so much smaller than the red, that's one of the things, I could probably clip this resistor off. The resistor is not necessary because it's a 3-volt LED and I have a 3-volt battery. But if I wanted to power this like from a 9-volt power source, then I would, go ahead and be able to do that with this resistor, but I wouldn't be able to do that with the blue. So I could clip it off, but I'm choosing to not do any of that. So I'm just going to twist them together a little bit. There we are. And let's see. Bearded Merc, hey, what's up, man? Thanks. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I actually have an entire lighted Ultramarines bike army with, I guess, 3 full lighted bike squads. So that's what, 27 bikes, and then characters. A captain and a tech marine are lighted as well. So had a lot of fun with that. And then we're going to take the black wires, which in this case are actually green wires. And again, it's hard to see, so I'm going to try and bring this up there. Let me see if we can get it to focus. This camera, it's pretty impressive. It's a Logitech Brio. This is the 4. Get it to focus. There it is. There it goes. So this is the 4K one that I'm using for the desk cam. And you can see where they've stripped off, maybe using heat. That's what the disc color is, perhaps. The green insulation, and then the end is already bare silver. So again, Evan's designed a pretty nice job here. Never met the people at Evans Design, don't know them. Found them randomly through an internet search. Did a test buy, that came in just fine. And then I went ahead and dove in and bought everything I thought I needed for the project. So, okay, so we've got those twisted together. And again, now we're going to come over here. And you'll see that I'm not twisting my wires together like this. You know, I'm taking them parallel to each other. So that's so I can get a little bit better of a twist. Now, you know, I was, as you guys probably mostly know, some of you know, guys I know at least, I was in the Army, of course, back in the 80s, Cold War, all that good stuff. And I was actually in the Signal Corps, 72 Echo Combat Telecommunications Center operator. And then I went out to my unit, the 352nd Evac Hospital out of Oakland Army Base, and pretty much never had to do the crypto or any of the stuff that I was ever trained to do. Instead, I ran a manual switchboard with cat eyes. If you ever used to watch the old TV show MASH, I ran the exact same equipment that Radar O'Reilly ran in a very similar type of unit, so that was always kind of fun. But anyways, as part of all of that, long story short, or short story long, actually, as the case may be, I learned how, of course, to splice wires. Because whenever we went out in the field, for 5 years, 6 months of which were out in the field, setting up the hospital and tearing it down, we used the exact same spool of wire. We had, I think it was 2 or 3 spools of wire, but like 1 or 2 of them, I forget, I think it was just 1, was never touched. It was brand new, unused. If we ever actually went into the whatever, stuff happened, there we had a brand new spool to go. And so all training all the time was always with the same spool of wire. So we'd spool it out. We'd have to run wires from tent to tent, all the different tents throughout the hospital. And of course, because we had phone lines, so doctors had to be able to call prescriptions and emergencies and all that stuff. And so we would set up all the phones, splice all the wires, run them, you know, aerial, all that good stuff. Then we'd have to run the wire from the hospital up to the local, we called it a Merlin, but it was basically the local switchboard. And from there, it went out to the world and all that good stuff. So we would wheel out our spool wire, cut it up, and then at the end of bivouac, you know, whatever, a week later, a few days later, it was all just various lengths of time, we would reel that up and tie every single splice into like a square knot. And then when we got back to base, we would unroll that spool, and every square knot we would re-splice together. So first step is to twist the wires together, which is what we did. And then the second step, now we can't do a military wiring. They had a, what was that called? Something 4, GS4, GS2, GS4, I think it was. GW4? Nah, that would be too funny. But it was general purpose wire, GP4. I'm pretty sure that was it. And it had a steel core and then an outer copper braid. It wasn't copper, but they called it the copper braid. And so you learn to like twist the inner steel wires together. And then we had this kind of like a weave pattern that we did with the copper wires on the outside. So anyways, that's not what I did here. But that is how I learned to do hand splicing and stuff. So yeah, this came out pretty nice. Those are going to hold pretty well. And let's pop some power in there. So let's see. Positive being the flat side of the coin cell. Let's get that back to the center. Ooh, there we go. Focus. And yeah, there we go. We have lights. Okay, so we got the power for the fusion engine and the power for the dash display. And I went ahead and went with red. So as you see in the actual bike, I decided that orange would make for a cool gun effect. And I was really pleased because each one of the LEDs has its own flasher on it. And you'll see over time that they're not exactly in sync. You see them right there? So it kind of creates this back and forth machine gun effect pretty quick. And then they'll sync back up which is kind of interesting given enough time, and then they'll desync. So it's kind of interesting to watch that happen. So anyway, so we got our blue for the fusion, and we've got the red for our display. And my idea as far as the colors go were that the orange would look good as the guns. And since we have an orange here, I thought the red would be kind of a nice complement. Plus, I was visualizing the red glow from the display kind of playing across the front of the face, maybe some metallics on the chest to kind of catch in a little bit of that glow. So I think that'll play nicely. And then the blue, one of the problems with the last bikes that I created was I created blue headlights on them. Actually, I used UV on half of them and blue on the other half. And blue is such a short wavelength. It's one of these things. Like you look at right there. It's there's red and there's blue, and the red LED is actually a bigger, brighter LED than the blue LED is. But the blue LED's shorter wavelength of light, in particular with how it interacts with digital cameras and stuff, and their filters, makes it seem brighter. So the blue lights in the headlights on my old bikes were like utterly blinding to people. Like that, blah. I know. Believe me, I know. And so I just find that interesting. So I bought the smaller blue, but it actually looks brighter. And I got the bigger red, which is brighter, but actually doesn't look necessarily brighter. Okay. Put that right there. Oh, yeah. Perfect. Okay, so we've got our first wiring harness together. Let's go ahead and do the flashing ones. Now, these are a little easier, actually, because both LEDs are the same. So there we are. Those two, and black to black, red to red. Very simple wiring. Nothing special going on here. You do not have to be an electrical engineer or an electrician. I am certainly not an electrician or an electrical engineer. What it's worth, my actual quote, engineering background, such that it is, though of course you guys know I'm a metrological engineer or quality engineer. I actually, my formal college and trade school background is in mechanical drafting. And so that was long enough ago that I did learn, I learned how to do like circuit layouts and schematics. And I actually learned how to do circuit board layout because, of course, I grew up here in Silicon Valley. And so in the early 80s, a very critical skill, and thus a skill that they taught to young people going through drafting programs, was the ability to actually use tape and little circles of tape and little lines of tape on vellum to lay out the tracings for circuit boards. Like now it's all done completely different. But back then, we would have actually by hand laid out the tracings for a circuit board based on a schematic that we were reading. And then that would have been used for the photo masking to actually create the circuit boards. In fact, if you get a hold of like some old electronics and you open it up, take a look at the tracings on the board, and you'll see that little, like sometimes a little wiggle here and there, or when it goes around a corner, you'll see where like the tape crinkled a little bit when some guy was doing it. So that's always kind of interesting. Right, Silicon Valley. I mean, my grandmother used to talk about the stories of working at, what was the name? Fairchild. Yeah, that was it, Fairchild. Where she was actually making computer chips. And this is like the late 60s, early 70s, I think. And, she would like take the chip in a pair of tongs and lay it on this microscope thing, she would describe it, and push a button to photo mask it, and then use a stopwatch and tongs to dip it in a beaker of acid and go do the next photo action, like basically by hand build these layers of, hey, what's up, Ben? Go in and actually build these wafers by hand. It's pretty amazing. And interesting enough, that Fairchild site, then, which is like the birth of the computer chip site, is just right up the road here. It's actually my wife Donna grew up like a mile from there or what have you. And that site was so toxic that when they shut the building down, they had to seal it for 20 years. And then while I was working over there at a machine shop in that area, and then they decided, they were gonna. It was the 20 years was up, so they actually not only removed the building, but they dug the dirt under the building down 25 feet and hauled all that dirt away to a toxic landfill, and then filled it back in. And now there's like a shopping center. There's like a Lucky's and all the shopping centers that are there. But that's the birth of the computer chip happened there. So okay, so anyways, we got this second harness all done up, looking pretty good. Got our battery switch. These are actually really nice switches. Now, I've worked with a variety of switches. The old Power Play, they had these big, bulky switches, which but then for a while, they had these little tiny switches, which were super awesome. And then, of course, the battery packs actually used on my other bikes had a switch like the equivalent of being right here, to where you can just turn it on and off. But I like these ones. Not too high a profile. So I think that'll work out. So there we are. We've got, let me turn it on. We've got all of our LED wiring harnesses put together. So now, I debated a lot on these. Like, what was I going to do with the switches? Obviously, it wasn't obvious. Like, I was pretty sure I wanted to put the batteries on the bottom. The problem, as you can immediately see, is that it's just a little thicker. And let me see if I can find, I should have probably had this ready. Sorry, guys, just over here. Rando time digging. There it is. Luckily, it's, nothing's ever far in the hobby room, as it were. So this was like my first concept. I was thinking, okay, maybe I'd cut out a hole and have the batteries like inside of a pocket here, and then maybe build up with plastic art and green stuff, like a little battery case. And if you've seen my Thankwall and Bone Ripper, I did something similar to that, where I actually built like a little stairway. So he's standing on a plinth with stairs, but that's actually holding the battery and all that. But this one, I said, to heck with it. I just went ahead and, it runs a little thick. So it adds about 2 millimeters to the bottom. You guys speak in metric? 1/8 of an inch? So it sticks about 1/8 of an inch down. No, that's not 2 millimeters. So don't bother. Anyway, so it sticks down that far, and I noticed that the switches stand about the same height. So I was thinking, okay, well, if I can get the battery packs and the switches arranged right, it at least will sit, pretty reasonably. And you can see it actually rocks, but, we're on a game table. Like, you're always pulling shenanigans. Like, if you're playing me, it's shenanigans. Like, no, I'm not on the second level, but I'm inch away from assaulting you. So, how that works. What do you mean I can't go up the side like that? So there's lots of fun things you can do. So I decided I was going to put them in the base here. And one thing I noticed was that these switches were kind of just about the same size as that little pip. So that's, I think, the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to drill out the bases. So I think this is the right size drill. I mean, that's as scientific as I got with it, right? You can do it, camera. I believe in you, camera. I believe in you, camera. I know there's got to be like a trick making it just like ultra focus. Maybe it's loading the... See, there it is. So anyway, so you can see that this diameter drill is just about the right size for the shoulder there. So that's what we're going to use. Now, at work, I've just recently picked up these... Let's see. Yeah, the Kings. What's the non-loyalist measurements? Haha. So a real easy conversion, and it's like these are super rough numbers, but I always look at like 3 millimeters is 1/8 of an inch. 25 millimeters is an inch, which means like 4 inches is 100 millimeters. 12 inches is 300 millimeters. Obviously, the further you extend that out, the more the rounding error becomes an issue. But these are like super quick, easy conversions. Like if you just remember that 300 millimeters is 12 inches, right? I guess if I was cool, I'd have like some kind of a phrase to go with that, right? Like the 12-inch pizza pie reminds you of the 300 slices of pepperoni. I don't know. So anyways, here we go. We're gonna drill it away. But anyways, at work I have these DeWalt screwdrivers. They're centrifugal, so it looks like one of those little normal. Come on, you can do this. I hate when it pulls. There we go. You just gotta yank on it. So we got these DeWalt. This is just my Ryobi like regular old drill that I've had for a decade. But these DeWalt ones I have at work, they're centrifugal and they're pretty cool. So you like, as you hold the device and it's it's about yay big, you push the button and it spins up the centrifuge in the center, but the tip doesn't actually start spinning. And then as you slightly rotate your hand, that causes the tip to go in and actually spin right there. It's like, and like I have found that those DeWalt hand screwdrivers, drawn quarter, that's DeWalt screwdrivers are, I actually have like more control over tightening a screw than I do by hand. And it's funny to say that, and you're like, well, I can tighten a screw, but yeah, tighten 100 screws, right? And I don't normally do assembly. I mean, I did some assembly work when I was younger. Going through college, I worked in an assembly company, glaze making company. So we got those two through. But lately, I've been working on this project where we have to dial in like these blocks on a big thing, a thing on a thing, right? I can't talk about nothing. But to like 60 microns, which, let's see, 60 microns. So 10 microns is what, 5/10,000ths of an inch. So that 60 microns is going to be 3,000ths of an inch, I think. Make me do math while I'm holding a drill. That doesn't work. Okay, so we've drilled the holes for the bottom there, and let's clean that up real quick. If I had a larger drill handy, I guess I could hunt one down, or a countersinking tool, which would be really baller, but I have one only at work. Then we could just spin a nice edge. But these don't really matter, because I'm going to stick a switch through the bottom. And there we go. Oh, I guess we could try our fancy ceramic one. Here, I showed that off last week. Let's see if we can get in there. The super ceramic. Yeah, I was better off with the X-Acto knife. I always end up there. So anyways, we can go ahead and get that edge off. Nice. And there we go. Okay, more plastic. Okay, so let's get those switches in place. There we go. Where are we at time-wise? Excellent. I put the timer up because otherwise I would just ramble on forever. That is a fact. I teach. Well, I don't teach as much anymore. That's a fact. But for many, many years, I was teaching monthly classes, 4 days, 8 hours a day. So 32 hours of material presented, free form, no notes, no nothing. And I remember when I first started doing that, like in the late 99 or so, I was like, oh, how am I going to talk? What am I going to fill the air with for 32 hours? And then I find out, like, no, 32 hours, that ain't enough. I will talk for 32 hours and talk for 32 hours more. And at some point, I might actually get to talking about what the people came to learn. So there we are. Okay, so we got our switches. They all fit. That's what the final config is going to be on those. And, oops, I almost forgot one last piece, and that's right here in the center. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's the hole where the wires feed through. So that's going to go through right in here. So just switch out the chook on our drill. And drill bits. Any of the crappy drill bits you're going to buy at the store. I just bought this cheap Ryobi set, Home Depot, whatever. They're all going to be crap. Let's face it. That like real quality drills like we use in a machine shop and what have you. like one drill is, 20, 30, $50 or more, depending on the coatings and the geometry. So the reason I mention that is don't kid yourself when you go down to the store. I mean, I wouldn't buy necessarily the Harbor Freight $2 drills, but you're looking at the $10 drill pack and the $30 drill pack. Yeah, there's no difference. Especially, well, anyways, we'll just say there's no difference. So from this one though, I think we're gonna take 1/8 of an inch. It's funny. I actually wanted to get some metric drills going for specifically because like my fiber optics are metric, and of course all the GW stuff is metric. So just for fitting things, it's kind of nice to have metric drill size. But I'll be darned if you can find a metric drill at a Home Depot or a Lowe's. They have like weird size. Like I got a 4.2 millimeter drill. It's like, what the heck is that? Now here, so I'm about to do this drill, and what does this lead to? This leads to the exact excitement that everybody is hoping to see. So let's rethink that a little bit. We'll just kind of move my fingers to the side so I'm not actually putting the drill through the palm of my hand. This little hole, and get that other one in. And there we go. Very nice. Okay. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. Yeah, that first machine shop job I had, one of the things, we made gauges, so I was engaged in I was engaged in all the stages of manufacture, from the converting the raw materials through the first steps, through heat treating, through coating, right up into assembly and straightening of the gauges. And then, actually, when gauges would get damaged, I would do the repairs. And of course, the gauges we made were gauges for measuring the different aspects of magnetic tape. So think of like VCR tape, like the tension on the tape, the run out, the wobble of the reader head, that kind of stuff. But mostly for like TV stations. So C-size video, which is what television stations use. Though we did make these VHS products for repairs and what have you. A little bit of a burr on this one still. So, I just didn't deburr this whole thing. Let's get that. So anyway, so these gauges, our customers were like, Sony, Memorex, all the major BASF, all the major tape makers. And I remember, I'm gonna say 88, 87. I don't know. It had to be later than that. Maybe 89? I don't know. It's hard to say. So anyway, somewhere in the late 80s. We got these samples in from Sony, and they were cassettes that had a silver tape in it. And on the inside of the cassette was like a little 45-degree mirror for the laser to bounce off of and hit the silver tape. And what they were was a prototype pre the CD coming out. So the CD there was no such thing as a CD. And so Sony's like one of their early attempts at creating a digital media was actually just going in and creating silver tape, which obviously did not work. Okay, so we've got all that in, and now let's attach them to the base. So if we look here, I'm going to try and flip this over, I guess. You can probably see that. Nothing too crazy going on. So we've got one of these, and I've just decided randomly that we're going to start here. So we'll go like this, and we'll run our two lights through the center. There we are, coming out the other side. And of course, got the switch. So that's all I'm worried about right now. I'm going to get those kind of in place. And it's a little bit of a tricky fit, but man, these Outriders just have these huge bases. So I think that looks pretty good. Now here's a thing that I debate on. Like, ultimately, some crazy glue, some cyano. There we go. Some extreme power thick is going to give me a good hold. However, if I'm careless with the cyano, with the crazy glue, I'm going to maybe ruin the contacts in the battery, or worse yet, gum up the switch. Now, an alternative is I can go and just try to hold everything in place with glue gun, as you see I'm going to do with the wiring in a little bit. But with glue gun, I don't know. Not super impressed. Now, on this one, as I look at it, that's right. I didn't actually use cyano, so I guess that's what I should stick with. What I used was my bottle of gray goo. So this is Tamiya extra thin cement, and then you clip up a whole bunch of sprues and throw it in there. So it's right. Tamiya extra thin normally is this clear cement, right? And so you throw in a bunch of sprues, and all the sprues melt, and you basically end up with Bondo. So it's melted plastic. It's the same plastic, GW plastic, but it's actually also in the cement, which is then going to further melt the plastic. So this is the thing. It's like here, this is meant to melt PVC, and this is definitely a PVC plastic. This, I think, is a PVC plastic, but the switch, my inability to actually glue anything to the tip of the switch has me questioning whether this is actually a PVC over here. So I'm not sure. Plus, it has that slicker feel of blah blah blah. It'll come to me later when I'm not thinking about one of the other plastics. How's that? Definitely. So let's try and work with this stuff a little bit. And let's see here. Last time I worked with this stuff, I drizzled it all over my brand new work surface here. So I think we'll go ahead and lay down a drop cloth. Let's see if this will work. So probably should have had that ready too. Perfect. Just grab a stack of them. Nice. So these are clean room polyester cloths. Probably way too expensive to use for hobby and stuff, but hey, I happen to have a bag or two, and so that's what I'm going to use. So here we are. Try not to inhale this stuff, or do if that's what you're into. I'm more of a don't inhale the nasty solvent stuff, and you can see there it is. Oh, fuck, that stuff stinks. Ugh. Okay, here we go. Toothpick ready. Let's see if we can do this without killing ourselves. Just kind of paint some of that goo. Watch out, it tends to drip. Can you see what I'm doing there? Real careful with this stuff. Ugh, a mess. Here, let's take this toothpick and clean some of this crust off the bottle there. Gnarly. Whoo! Lightheaded. That stuff is ho, 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 tent. Okay. That looks like a good amount. Let's get another. Oh, yeah, look at that. There we go. That's what we needed. One last splob, right? That's always when it's too much. Should have stopped, but I didn't. Do any of us? No. Obviously, we all have impulse control, because otherwise we wouldn't have ridiculous freaking Warhammer collections. Okay, so there we are. Birds of a feather and all that, my friends. Birds of a feather. Hey, what's up, Paul McKelvey? How you doing, brother? Good to see you. Okay, so we'll just hold that down for a second. This stuff works really fast. Again, I highly recommend make your own little bottle of the Tamiya, whatever it is, extra thin cement, but I just call it the Tamiya goo. There are plenty of YouTube videos out there showing you how to make goo. Maybe I'll make one myself. But okay, that should hold for a second. Now, as for the switch, like I said, I was less impressed, but at least there's a little bit of a texture on this plastic. So I think if I get just the right amount of goo, it'll kind of stick with that. But I got to be careful because, we've got you see this? Let's try and get that to zoom in. Come on, camera, you can do it. Oh, I don't know, white, plastic. See, and again, there it pulls it off. So you can see the split seam on the switch. So if I get stuff into there, it's unlikely to work. And then, of course, being a push button, there's obviously going to be a gap around the top. So just got to be careful with all that. So I'm going to go back in with our Tamiya goo. Yeah, right? Paint will pull them off too. I hear you, man. Okay, here we go. Now it's funny for me. I do a combination. It's funny with the bikes. People often ask me, "Well, John, did you build it with the lights, paint it?" And actually, with the bikes, I most of them lit after they were painted. Well, base coated, and so I'd get them up to the base coat point, and then go in and add the lights. With all my other projects, it's just been a variety. Really, I kind of plan out from the beginning, and if I think I can get away with it, then I do like to put the lights in first, but not everything lends itself to that. And so we just kind of have to do it. But when you have a fully painted model and you're going for your first drill of those lights, oh man, that can be nerve wracking. Let's see if that's enough of that goo. It's not bad. Let's get a little more on the side there. Just gonna kind of come in. Ooh, that's a lot. Ooh, don't mess up. Don't mess up. There we are. Nice. Okay, and this side looks pretty good, but we'll just, again, I just don't want them to come loose. You know how it is. Like you're in the middle of a tournament or some crap. Come loose. So I like to build my stuff to last, which is why I do use cement. It's pretty rare for me to be using any kind of crazy glue, cyano, to build a model. I mean, I have the stuff, but I don't use it a lot. Like things that I think might be replaced. So if I'm gonna, choose not to magnetize a weapon, then I might go ahead and hold it on with the cyano, so then I can just, put it in the freezer and pop that weapon off in the future when the rules change. For what it's worth, cyano is a highly brittle adhesive, and if you use an accelerant, it's even more brittle. So, whereas it's very strong for pulling apart, it's actually very weak to shattering type forces. So, typically, if you can put a shock into cyano, that's how you're going to get it apart. Especially if you freeze it, then it's extra brittle. You can put like a hard metal point, a punch against a joint, and give it a tap with a little brass hammer and transfer that force and just like shatter that entire joint and just pop them right apart. So pretty easy there. Okay, so yeah, see, that's not convinced that's gonna hold. And ooh, we don't want to get any into that switch. Let's clean that back. Fill that in a little, actually. Wouldn't be bad. So that might be the way to hold it, even if the plastic glue or cement isn't quite doing what it's doing. And that's, of course, the power of this Tamiya goo. Another chunk of whatever hardened stuff from the edge of the rim. That right. You see what I'm doing there? Sorry, let me bring that up closer. Get that to focus. Perfect. Okay, so now we're gonna basically just come in here and run a little gasket around the edge. Oh, yeah, there we go. Like that bounce. Like you want enough so that you're not dipping every second, right? It's a pain. But then if you got a big old blob on there, you're just gonna make a mess. Like just like painting, right? It's like, do I want a bunch of paint so that I don't have to go into the pot as often, or am I going to carefully put many layers on? And I think one more dab will do it, as it were. Okay. That's looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and start on the other side. There we are. Okay, so we've got our other lighting harness. And same deal. So we're going to run the lights. Where are you? Run those lights through. Now, of course, we got Mr. Paul McKelvey in the chat here, who is another person who has lit many, many models. In fact, he has some of the most amazing lit Tau models that you will ever face on the tabletop. Incredible work. Now, Paul is more of a subtle modeler, so he has like really very realistic and nice effects. I myself, I feel that there is an intrinsic garishness to 40K. It's an extreme situation. It's an extreme setting, and so I actually do favor a little bit of a cartoon garishness with a lot of the stuff I do. So that's fairly intentional. But all these things are just aesthetic choices, and that's the beauty of this hobby is just the ability to express your own ideas, your own concepts against this common backdrop. To share it with similarly like-minded friends. It's rare that you're gonna have some cool idea and your friends gonna be like, "Oh man, the hell's that?" Right? You get a lot of support, so it's good stuff. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get our Tamiya goo right on there. I'm not sure how much delay is going on. I can tell there is a delay, just relative to like chat reactions and stuff. I'm not sure how much it is. So, plus, it's kind of cool. We're using this thing called Restreams. That's why it says brought to you by. Oh no! Oh no! Danger! Danger! Get it under control. Bring it back. Yikes! Okay, so we're using this service called Restream, and Restream, basically lets me through OBS, which of course I'm using to stream, like everybody does. It allows me to simultaneously connect to Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and I actually see a chat that is. Oh, thanks, Avocado Kids. Appreciate that, man. I see a chat, but it's actually the combined chat of Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. And then whatever service you're on, I see a little icon next to your name, kind of indicating that you're chatting at me from Facebook or Twitch or YouTube. Those are the three we're doing. Pretty cool stuff. So I like it. Previously, of course you guys know I'd done some streaming, but mostly had done it just through YouTube, which works pretty easy. And not ironically, when I logged into YouTube today, there was an announcement that they have a new streamlined streaming interface. So I might have to check that out. But honestly, this Restream.io works pretty darn good. So they were just going to hold that in place. We've got both of our battery packs going on down there. We've got, oops, we had a slip out. Let's get those lights back where they belong. And there we go. Okay. Just threaded through. Now let's make sure everything's still working at this point. Test frequently. It's not that LEDs fail, but there's weak solder connections. And of course, we are buying third-party products, which are mostly semi-hobby level constructed on their own. So while you go to somebody who has really good construction, they might have still a bad solder joint here or there. And if you're just kind of gentle with everything until you get it locked in, then you're pretty good. Like once the model's built, these are pretty survivable. But it's in this stage that it's easy to break connections and stuff right there. Right? There's a lot going on under that base, that's for sure. How you doing, Mario? Good to see you, man. Good to see you. And okay, so now we're going to go ahead and go back to the goo, and we're going to build that little gasket around the other switch here. So again, coming back to our Tamiya goo, Tamiya thin with chunks of sprue cut up in it to make our cement goo. And we'll just apply some. I'm going to apply the other one I applied on the base. This one I'm going to try spreading some of it here. No, yeah. Ooh, that was almost a disaster. Did you see the size of that glob? Let me bring that back on center. Sorry, guys. There we are. Okay. Try to, you can't really see them. We can see it on the left side of the screen there. I've got some little dice that I set down to try and give myself a corral to stay in. We're down to about 12 minutes. We should just get through the wiring, which is what I was hoping to accomplish for today. There we are. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and plop that switch into place. Very nice. Okay, and just like we did before, we're going to try and build a little gasket. That to focus. Come on, you can do it, camera. I believe in you, camera. I believe in you. Come on, everybody. Away we go. No? Oh, well. Okay. I give up. It'll do it. You see, oh, see, as soon as I give up, there, look at that. Perfectly clear. It's like it's listening to me. The camera has a mic. Who knows? It's a ghost in the machine. Okay, and again, basically what I'm doing is I don't think the cement is really going to hold on this plastic, but I'm creating a gasket that is, because it's larger on the bottom, and then this little bit on top is going to melt to the black base, even if not to the white switch. And so it's going to hold that switch in place no matter what. And of course, it's still a wet, solvent laden plastic. So even if it's not, the solvent portion is not able to attack the white plastic because they're a different type of plastic, the adhesive nature of the plastic will still bring it in, right? The difference between a cement and an adhesive, right? Most model glue is a cement. It's going to melt the products, fuse them together, parent materials, blah, blah, blah. And of course, adhesive, just it says right there, instant adhesive, basically works off of surface adhesion. In those cases, having some texture and stuff helps. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And do we want a little more on the bottom? Yeah, I'm thinking so. Yeah. Now, of course, ultimately, I'm lighting 2 more bikes. So when you tune in, hopefully next week, hopefully you tune in next week. I will definitely be here. So next week, Wednesday at 8 o'clock, and it's basically going to be every Wednesday at 8 o'clock for an hour. You see my timer going down to our last 10 minutes together. And so for an hour, just going to work on these bikes. And I'm picturing maybe a total of 5 sessions until I have them completely finished. We'll see how it goes. I can kind of control the throttle by yapping more or less. Start getting done too soon, there'll be more John story time. You guys the history of Silicon Valley again or some crazy stuff. We'll do a treatise on adhesives. Okay. There we go. Very nice. Oh, giving it a try. Are you talking about the Mario? You trying about the Tamiya goo? If you are, I can go on and on about this stuff. This is like a magic something in your toolbox. Like when you put a model together, when you end up with a nasty seam, you can just glop this stuff over the top of the seam. It's going to harden into plastic, and then you can come back with your needle file, your jeweler's file, and clean up that seam and literally make seams vanish. So, depending on how far you want to go with this stuff, that is pretty amazing. Okay. That's looking pretty good. I am super happy with that. Okay, so now I probably should just let that sit for a bit. So we're just going to set that aside. Got that. Now I'm got like 10 minutes left, so I'm real tempted to like push on with this portion. But one of the things of planning a project is planning kind of like some of the different sub assemblies that you're going to do and how you're going to proceed through them. Like, so in this case, my actual plan ultimately is I'm going to be building 2 bikes. So though I won't be doing it on air, I will be building this second bike. So like by next week, it'll be done. But what that would allow me to do is if I went immediately to the second bike, it would allow for all of this glue to cure. But with this kind of cement, I would prefer to let it cure overnight, especially with these switches. I really don't want to disturb it while it's still in a plastic state, in which would ruin the cement effect. So I really just want to let that sit. So we'll kind of put that like, I don't know. Of course, duh. Easy mode. We got the old GW helping hand here. Just grab that. Yeah, why not? It'll work. And we'll set that aside. Okay, so now let's take a look at the body of the bikes themselves. So we've got the 2 halves. Now we've got the hollow post and the male post half. So I think those 2, yeah, they look like they go together. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So now a few things. We're going to actually be installing some fiber optics. So here we have some 3mm, or for you imperial types, we have an 1/8 of an inch fiber optic, and that's what we're going to use to make the plasma engine back in there. We're actually going to run it through the entire bike. We're going to take the blue light and attach it to the middle, and then we're going to hand shape the ends of this with a diamond file to create that sort of rounded effect on either end. So that should come out pretty nice. And then we have some 1.5mm or 1/16 of an inch for you imperial types fiber optic, and that's what we're going to do for the guns. So one of my challenges was that I wanted the guns to be, have this lighting effect. And one of the things I will tell you is I absolutely cannot stand drilled barrels. Okay, so every single drilled barrel I've ever looked at, I can see that it's off center and it breaks the illusion for me. If the barrel is solid or even better painted black, it never bothers me. Like, it doesn't look great, but it doesn't look bad. But every drilled barrel looks bad. And it's funny, I always have people say, but my drilled barrels are the best. And they show it to me and I'm like, yeah, okay, it's off center at 3 o'clock. Right? I mean, it's like, come on, it's so obvious. So my challenge was I didn't really want to drill barrels and run fiber optics through. So what I decided to do is actually I clipped the barrels off completely, drilled it, ran the fiber optic through, painted the fiber optic, and then filed the ends. So that's how we're going to get it. And of course, now the barrels and the flash effect are perfectly concentric. Or, well, no, of course, nothing's perfect. There's the variation in thickness of the paint. So to go down and make that happen, first thing we're going to do is take our handy dandy clippers and just clip the barrels right off the end of the gun. Simple solution. Let's go ahead and clean that up. I think file the best choice right there. Not bad, not bad. Okay, and the other one. A lot of times when I'm doing this kind of work, by the way, it's, not only is this a very fine jeweler's file, it's appropriately aged, so it's not have as much bite. I'm not pushing on the file. This is like just like my fingers back here, steadying it and guiding it, but it's mostly just the weight of the file going on. It's one of those things, like, because the thing with a file is a great tool for removing a lot of material, but if you push hard, you're going to dig gouges that you then have to clean up later. So that looks pretty good. Okay, so I think we have just enough time to pull off this last little bit. There's a super duper sharp knife here. And how's this one? This one's not quite as sharp. What do we got? 236. We're good. We're good. Okay, so now I wanted to be like exact. I could do something cool, like do a cross there, and then that would find the center point. But, it's funny. The human eye is actually absolutely terrible at absolute measurements. Okay? You can't look at something and know how big it is. But we have an amazing comparative ability. So as long as we have something of known straightness, orientation, or location we can look at, we can always comparatively find equality. Sorry, while I focus for a sec. So what I'm looking at is my ability to see. I guess I could try to bring that up close to the camera. Ooh, look at that. See if that focus holds. I'm just going to try an eyeball spot in the center. And I want to come down. Nope, that wasn't good enough. Come down just a little. Maybe right there. So I'm just going to give it a little punch. And a minute and a half. So we're just going to go like that. Grab our drill. Pull out that 16th. Oh no, it's stuck. Oh no, crunch time. Crunch time on the hobby zone. Oh no. Put that in. And this might be one that's better to actually do by hand. Just get it started by hand, but we'll see how it goes under power. This is where I was thinking those DeWalt drills might be nice too. Real slow. Check your spot. It's gonna work. And we bring it in. And just carefully drill that in. We got 26 seconds. This will go a little faster. 17, 15, 14. Oh no. Did we get through? Not quite. But that, my friends, is all we're going to do for tonight. Here we are, 2, 1. And the time has come. Thank you, everybody, for joining me for a little hobby time tonight. We'll come back to my face. Again, thank you very much for joining me on In Your Phase Media, John's Wednesday Hobby Night. We'll see y'all next week. Hey, glad to see you too, Mario. Paul, everybody, thank you for tuning in tonight. Thank you very much. Talk to y'all later.